I didn't answer right away. By then, my phone had already stopped vibrating. The missed calls were still there, the messages too. 30 from my father. More than 100 combined from my mother and brother. The strange thing was that 24 hours earlier, none of them seemed interested in talking to me at all. The message that started it sat at the top of the thread. You're not invited to the wedding. Goodbye, loser. My brother had sent it at 8:17 p.m. A minute later, my father reacted with a thumbs up, not privately, not accidentally. Right there in the family group chat, I stared at the screen for a long time. I wish I could say I felt angry. Mostly I felt tired, because the message wasn't really new. It was just honest. For years my place in the family had been simple. I was useful. I handled things. When someone forgot a payment, I fixed it. When paperwork needed attention, I did it. When vendors needed answers, I answered them. My brother called me boring. My father called me overly serious. Yet somehow they never minded when those same habits solved their problems. I typed one word. Fine, then I put my phone down. No speeches, no threats, no dramatic exit, just a decision. Over the next hour, I logged into every account connected to the wedding arrangements that I personally managed. The venue deposit schedule, the transportation contracts, several recurring payments tied to event services, nothing illegal, nothing destructive. I simply removed my payment methods and my authorization. I detached myself from obligations that had never actually been mine. Then I went to sleep. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. At first, I thought something terrible had happened. Then I listened to the voicemails. My brother sounded confused. My mother sounded frightened. My father sounded angry. By noon, anger had become panic. The reality was simple. Everyone had assumed I would continue handling things because I always had. Nobody had considered what happened if I stopped. Around 2 in the afternoon, my father finally sent a message that wasn't a demand call me. I didn't, not because I wanted revenge, because for once, I wanted them to sit with the consequences before I rescued them from them. The next day brought something even stranger. Silence not from me, from them. The flood of messages slowed down, the accusations disappeared. I later learned why the wedding vendors had begun contacting the actual people responsible. Deadlines were approaching, authorizations were required, contracts needed signatures. The people who had spent years assuming I would quietly solve everything were now hearing the same answer from professionals. We need approval from the responsible party. No amount of family pressure could change that. For the first time, the problem wasn't emotional, it was procedural, and procedures don't care who wins an argument. A week passed before my mother showed up at my apartment. She looked exhausted, older than I remembered. We sat at my kitchen table. Neither of us spoke for a while. Finally, she asked, "Why didn't you answer?" I looked at her. Why would I? The question seemed to surprise her, not because it was rude, because she didn't have an immediate answer. "I wanted to fix this," she said quietly. I nodded. "I know." She looked down at her hands, then she said something I hadn't expected. "They shouldn't have done that. Not you should forgive them. Not that's just how your brother is. Not keep the peace. Just that they shouldn't have done that." For some reason, hearing those words hurt more than the original message, because it confirmed she knew it was wrong all along. A few days later, my father called. I answered. For the first minute, neither of us spoke, then he cleared his throat. I shouldn't have reacted to that message. It wasn't a perfect apology. It sounded uncomfortable, forced, incomplete, but it was the first acknowledgement I'd received in years. I didn't rush to make him feel better. I didn't tell him everything was okay, because it wasn't. My brother never gave a proper apology. He sent a short text. Things got out of hand, that was all. Maybe it was the best he could do. Maybe it wasn't. Either way, I stopped expecting transformation that turned out to be its own kind of freedom. The wedding happened. I wasn't there. From what I heard, it went fine. Life continued. People adapted. Payments were handled by the people responsible for them. Decisions were made without assuming I would step in. The world didn't collapse. Neither did the family. But something did end. For years, I had confused dependence with appreciation. I thought being needed meant being valued. I thought carrying enough weight would eventually earn respect. Instead, I learned something less comforting. Sometimes people become so accustomed to your support that they stop seeing you at all. The missed calls eventually stopped. The messages became normal again. Birthdays, holiday greetings, occasional conversations. The relationship different, smaller, more honest. I still have that original message saved, not because I'm angry, not because I want revenge. Because it reminds me of the day I finally discovered the difference between being loved and being useful. And once I learned that difference, I couldn't go back.